It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
Thanks for joining us, folks. You're watching The Sam Lesante Show. You know, my friends, on May 17th, it's a critical day in the state of Pennsylvania. It's the primary election. And I know some of you may feel that you don't care to vote. I'm going to ask you, please vote on May 17th. You see what's happening in the country today. You see what's happening in the state of Pennsylvania. It's so very important, particularly when it comes to gubernatorial candidates. Today, my guest on the Sam Lesante Show is former Congressman Lou Barletta, and no stranger to the state of Pennsylvania. Did many things throughout the years that he was in elected office. And today, he is aspiring to be the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. Lou Barletta, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Sam. Good to be here.
A lot of interesting things happening in the state of Pennsylvania, my friend. You know, we have, it's a critical time. We see what's happening in the state in a lot of areas. The interesting thing, Lou, is not everybody could have you one-on-one or any of the candidates and talk and say, look, these are my concerns. Some people have their own lives to live. They have to get up in the morning, they have to work, they have their own concerns, own problems, and then let alone we have, the political part of it. So I'm hoping in today's show we're able to let people know who you are, Lou Barletta, and what you will bring to the state of Pennsylvania to become governor. Let me start in some areas. Okay, education. Okay, we've seen some interesting things. Tell me your views on education and what is happening in the state of Pennsylvania today.
Well, I'll tell you, Sam, it's become one of the top issues as I travel across Pennsylvania. With all that we've gone through, the misery, heartache, and loss of life of friends and sometimes family because of COVID, there was one bit of good news that came out of all that, is because our children were at home and not in the classroom, our parents had an opportunity to see what was being taught to their children, what was in the books, what was in the curriculum. And it scared people to death. We're seeing that critical race theory, where it's teaching one child is an oppressor because of the color of their skin, and one child is oppressed because of the color of their skin of a time before them that they didn't even live. This is happening for real in our classrooms across America. And I have gone, father of 4 daughters and 10 grandchildren, as a governor, I want to reassure the people of Pennsylvania, this will not happen under my administration. We are not going to teach our children to hate each other. We're going to teach them to love each other and to love this country. I signed the 1776 pledge, and that is a pledge to the people of Pennsylvania that we will not teach critical race theory to our children. Parents will have the right to look at the curriculum of what is being taught to their child. They'll have the right to look at what textbooks are being used. And we're going to go a step further. We're going to make sure that American history is taught to our children again. We're not going to let anybody change our history. We want our children to grow up to love this country and know that this is the greatest country on earth. And this is important to parents because parents, feel that they're left out. And parents have a right to know what's going on with our kids. There's something else that bothers me when we talk about education, and it's something that we see, and I've heard it in a couple of cases. There's a young girl in high school at practice playing high school sports. She goes down in the locker room, and there's a male sitting in the locker room naked. She wants to know, what about her privacy? Who's standing up and protecting her privacy? And I'm going to be standing up and protecting her privacy. I'm going to stand up and protect the privacy of our young women here in Pennsylvania. Biological boys will not play sports against girls. It's just not going to happen, Sam. We need to bring some common sense back to this Commonwealth, and boys will play boys sports, girls will play girls sports, and we're going to protect the privacy of young women here in Pennsylvania when I'm governor.
How did this happen? How did this craziness, where were we? You know, like I said, parents get up, they have their own, they're trying to make a living. Two parents are working, they're trying, and they're hoping and praying that their educational system, no matter where they're going, is being done properly. How did this craziness slip into our kids? And you just showed me something that's extremely disturbing, okay, with young boys. I mean, I just can't believe that, and neither can you.
I'm almost ashamed to show you it.
Yeah,
Let alone this is in the high school school libraries.
And parents now, okay, you see more people at school board meetings. How did this craziness happen? Where did it start from?
Well, it didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, while everyone's busy working and, you know, we've lost touch with what's actually being taught to our children. We think our children are all being taught reading, math, and science. And this far left, woke, radical agenda has constantly been pushing and pushing and pushing to the point now that it's gone to an area where we can't believe this is actually happening. I mean, those pictures I showed you appear pornographic to me.
They are.
And the language, the reading of another book and the story, to think that these books are in our schools and parents don't even know about it. You know, how did we get to this point? How do we get to a point where a governor can take your business away from you? That he chose which businesses had to close during the pandemic. How did we give someone that kind of power to take away your livelihood and take away the jobs of people who loved their jobs, loved where they work, and some of these places didn't open again? But the thought that he can do that by picking and choosing who he wanted to close is frightening. Sam, we've got to get back to normal again. We've got to bring common sense back to our government. The people of Pennsylvania need to know that they have somebody who's going to stand there and fight for them again. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And I think that's the great thing about growing up where I did here in Hazleton. It was a tough town. It's a tough coal town. But you know, it taught us, you know, when you're right, don't be afraid. Stand up and stand your ground. And I think people over my career have witnessed that during my time as mayor. And I think that's what we need again.
You know, there's so many issues that are of concern in the state of Pennsylvania. Education is certainly one of the top concerns we have. And here again, I think it boils down to leadership. You know, no matter what company, you know, you've had many businesses, and your life's an open book. It's loubarletta.com. You have been able to go and run businesses to great success. Now, the state of Pennsylvania, we need leadership. We need people who have experience. We can't have rookies in any kind of office. I mean, those days, to me, are gone. We need people who have executive experience. Executive experience, not, you know, legislative experience. For governor, I'm talking about. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it matters. You know, you're hiring the top CEO to run this great commonwealth. I think it matters that whether or not you've actually had experience in doing that. And, you know, a lot of the candidates check a box, and great candidates, there's no question about it. Republicans are lucky to have so many of them. But I check every box. You know, my wife and I had started a business from nothing and grew it into, you know, the 6th largest of its kind in the country. I've signed the front of checks, not just the back of checks. I know what it's like to make a payroll. I know what it's like to make decisions that affect, you know, whether or not we can put food on the table for our employees. But then I took that and I put it into government and how to run government. And you need to run government like a business. You need that business experience. And I was the mayor for over 10 years here in Hazleton, and I'm the only candidate who's actually governed in an executive position as the mayor of Hazleton. And I have to tell you, Sam, during those 10 years, they weren't just showing up for work. You know, I was faced with a national problem here as a mayor of Hazleton, and who would think that? And I stood my ground, and the people here in Hazleton and around the country saw that as well. But you know, it does matter whether or not you have that experience to be able to make those decisions. And And I think I've proven that. People will not have to guess what I'm going to do tomorrow. They could just look at what I've done yesterday, and that's the qualifications I bring to the table.
We've discussed this thing with immigration many, many times, okay? And sometimes when you talk to the people, they feel that you are anti maybe Hispanic or whatever, okay? Well, you have Hispanics in your family, okay? So, I mean, it's furthest from the truth. But, okay, so the difference is, okay, explain to the people when you talk about immigration that you don't hate people, but what your position is.
Yeah,
okay?
and you know, the people that know me and actually immigrants who are here actually support me, because I can't tell you how many come up and say, thank you for what you're doing. Yeah. It's illegal immigration, and that is we're not talking about immigrants, those that came to this country for a better life. That's who I'm fighting for, and they understand that. I'm fighting for them to get a better job. That's what they came to America for, so that their children have a better education. That's what their hopes are for their children. I'm their loudest voice and biggest cheerleader, and they understand that. But the media, to try to shut you down, especially if you're a politician, you know, immediately they want to say you're anti-immigrant, this is a hateful. No, this is a country that accepts immigrants. We all know, everyone that's watching your show is smart enough to know this is a country made of immigrants, and we're proud of that. We're proud of our heritage, and you know, my ancestors came from Italy, and you know, we're proud for that, and nobody ever wants to stop that. That's what makes America. But we have rules and we have laws. And just because you want to come here doesn't mean you can break our laws and walk across the border and then expect that the taxpayers, including all the immigrants here illegally who are taxpayers, should pay the consequences because you chose to come here illegally.
Why don't we hear about those illegals that have come into this country, who have raped our children, who have killed people, who have robbed? And, you know, then it becomes, you know, you talk to sometimes people who are, no, Barletta, and then what happens in their neighborhood, an illegal who should not have been there, either rapes their kids or something, does something that's illegal, then all of a sudden it becomes an issue. Am I right in saying that?
You're absolutely right. And we're not saying that everyone that comes here illegally.
Yeah.
But what about the ones that do, that bring the drugs in? We know fentanyl is coming in through our southern border. We know the drug cartel are using that open border and illegal immigration to get drugs into our communities that are killing our children and killing our friends. There's no good argument for illegal immigration, and I've stood my ground about that, Sam. And you know, at a time when nobody in America had the courage to do that. When I did this back in 2006, there was no one that stood on a national stage and said, you know, what I've said, illegal is illegal. Yeah. And I was going to stand there, and people watched me as I was sued by illegal immigrants. And I fought it all the way to the Supreme Court, and because of what I have done, standing up. Other communities and other states have followed the lead because I had the courage. And that's when you talk about leadership, that's what separates me from the others. I had that courage. You know, Sam, I had threats. I was called every name in the book by the media. I couldn't go home from City Hall the same way each night. I would go home a different way so I didn't have a pattern. I slept with a shotgun under my bed. When my dog barked at night, the shotgun came out. But you know what I didn't do, Sammy? I didn't back down. I stood there because I knew right is right and wrong is wrong. And I took an oath of office that I would protect the people in our community, and that's what I did. That's leadership. It's not a 30-second commercial that somebody wrote for the candidate and they just recited it.
Yeah.
I lived it.
Yeah.
I lived it. I have a record.
And you were there as a U.S. congressman.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah, you saw it firsthand.
I saw the Oz behind the curtains.
Yeah. And you talk to those people that are working there, but you never hear their stories in the press.
No.
You know, yeah, and you know, Lou, I've said this many times. I'm in this business many, many years. I learn things every day. I don't profess to know everything, but I'm embarrassed what the media has done in this country. I'm embarrassed what the liberal media has done and lied to so many people that they have them so, confused and even to the point of hateful. Moving on to some of the other concerns we have in the state of Pennsylvania, not only the state, but the country. Energy. Lou, I've had some people on my show who are running for office, and one of them is in the fuel business, and he told me that literally, when people are ordering fuel oil, they're literally crying on the phone, and we got to this situation that is so sad and pitiful. I just can't understand it. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, this all came from Washington. This all happened when Joe Biden got to Washington and literally told the world that, we're going to not be energy independent any longer. Now we're begging countries, with an empty gas can, getting on our knees, begging countries like Iran and Venezuela for energy, when we have it right here. And Pennsylvania is at the top of that. We have more natural gas here in Pennsylvania than anywhere in the world. We could be and should be exporting that energy here, bringing these jobs here. We have a governor right now that's putting us in what's called RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, that will put a carbon tax and basically kill our natural gas and energy opportunities here in Pennsylvania, taking this away, taking these jobs away, and our future away for our children and grandchildren. So on day one, I'm withdrawing Pennsylvania from RGGI. I am going to open up and unleash the natural gas that God put under our feet here in Pennsylvania. We're going to build the pipelines. We're going to bring the jobs here again. And we're going to let the world know that Pennsylvania is open for business again.
You have people saying, well, there goes the environment. There's Barletta and all these, there goes the environment. They're going to pollute the industry. So I know it's such a stupid thing, but answer that question.
Yeah, so let's go a little further. So we stopped the energy jobs here. We stopped, the natural gas, going for natural gas and being the leader in the world in selling energy. So who do we give it to? We give it to countries like Russia and other countries who are polluting the climate worse than we. Nobody does it better than us. If you really care about the climate, then you want to take those jobs away from those countries that are really polluting and bring them to here where it can be done more efficiently and environmentally friendly. So it's just common sense. It's just, these people like AOC and the radical environmentalists that want to take our jobs away from us and literally, hope that the wind blows so the windmill spins and we can somehow think that that's good enough.
They have taken coal and they made it still a dirty word. Okay, when people think coal, they think of pollution, they think of all the stuff. You've been on this show many times with people in the coal industry. How important is coal, to our society today? It
is more important than people even know.
Yes.
When I was in Congress, I was part of a program, actually. Let me start from the beginning, actually, Sam. There's 17 rare earth minerals that are needed to manufacture our computers, our cell phones, our televisions, but they're also needed in manufacturing our missile defense system here in the United States. The United States purchases 100% of these rare minerals from China. China sells 80% to the world. Now, what's wrong with that when you talk about national security? I was part of instrumental in helping Penn State and Texas Minerals receive $1 million grant to participate in a pilot project where we found that these minerals exist here in our anthracite coal, here in Pennsylvania. Not only in the coal that's in the ground, but in the waste piles that are still laying around, scarring our environment. The program actually went to phase 2 to see if we can extract these minerals from the waste piles, which we found we can. Now, when I become governor, Sam, we're going to move forward and bring producers here. Imagine if Pennsylvania replaces China as to a place where we can begin manufacturing and selling these rare minerals and the jobs that we bring here and the national security that we bring here. Sam, Pennsylvania's best days are ahead of them. They just need a leader who understands that and is going to make sure that we have those opportunities and we're not going to squander it.
Folks, I'm talking to Lou Barletta, who is running for governor in the state of Pennsylvania. LouBarletta.com. get all the information. This show, the Sam Lesante Show, is seen, you can get us on YouTube or Facebook. And it's so important to know who the candidates are and what they bring to the table. Let me continue on with a slew of concerns. You see, misinformation it's always out there, okay? You know, facts are ugly things sometimes, Lou, you know, and you've faced them throughout the years. And as I mentioned before when we opened the show, your life's an open book, okay? So you could go back and see what he's done. But executive experience to me is, especially becoming a governor or a president, executive experience is important. Many facets of life, we touched a little bit of education on family values, okay? You have 10 grandchildren?
10 grandchildren.
God bless you. 4 daughters. You fought for the bathroom, I guess, every day in your house. But when you talk about family values, and we're not all perfect. I mean, everybody wishes they had that perfect family, you know, etc. But there are people who are divorced and spouses, and they're all trying to exist in this world. Where do you stand on protecting the families and pro-life and why that's so important?
I say all the time, you know, it's pretty easy. Just look at my record. I'm pro-life, pro-God, pro-family, you know, pro-Second Amendment, pro-gun, pro-America. You know, I'm not ashamed, and I'm not shy about where I stand on issues that I believe are important. And I think it's important for the people to know exactly who they're voting for and where they stand on those issues. And I think that's important. You know, many times people will say something, but if they don't have a record, how many times have we voted for somebody in hopes of what they said on their commercial, and they end up not only solving the problem, but becoming the problem? I have a record people can look at, and you know where I stand.
Listen, I'm in the television business, and I think TV is extremely powerful, and that's why we're doing this show. But let's be honest, when you're doing a commercial, you know, what's the background of that person? Everyone, especially for governor in the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, maybe I'm a wacko, but I think it's so important to know that part. Then when you see that commercial, that's right, I know Lou Barletta, this is what he stands for. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know what you're getting. I'm proven. I'm road tested. I'm ready. I have the experience. I have the courage. People watched it. These are all the things that, as I travel around Pennsylvania, people are hoping for, because this is not a normal election. We see the direction of this country, but we also look at states like Florida, and we admire the courage of their governor giving freedom back to the people. You know, I'm not going to force people on these mask mandates and vaccine mandates and shutting people's businesses down. You're going to have your freedom again. And I'll do the things that I should be doing, keeping you safe, making sure we're standing with our law enforcement, the men and women who protect us. We're not only going to give them the funds they need, but we're going to give them the respect that they deserve. And we're going to let the criminals know in Pennsylvania that they have a governor who stands with law enforcement. We're going to keep our neighborhoods safe. I did it as a mayor. It's not just talk. I have a record.
Well, you look at the crime in the state of Pennsylvania, and you look at, here are facts. These are not things we're making up here on the show. You know, when you look at that, you say, well, look, how come crime has been, you know, going through the district attorneys and those poor cops? I feel so sorry for the policemen, and yet, you know, instead of helping them, all of them, you know, they're hurting them. I mean, this is nuts.
And what's the alternative if it's not me and it's Josh Shapiro? What happened in Philadelphia when they were burning businesses down, when they were flipping over police cars, you know, when they were letting criminals out? Instead of getting the drug dealers off the streets in Philadelphia, Josh Shapiro was going after the little sisters of the poor. That's not tough. That's not tough, Sam. And that's why it's important that we have somebody who has the experience. We can't hope that Pennsylvania is going to go in another direction, because if we make the wrong choice, unfortunately, it's not only us that will pay the price. It'll be our children and our grandchildren who will pay the ultimate price.
Lou, that's so true. I'm concerned about my grandchildren. I'm very much concerned, because when you see what's happening in education, and you just showed me those terrible things that the kids are looking at, and when you see all the stuff that just all of it hit us at one time, now that's why the school board meetings are jammed. You know, sometimes I wonder, you know, as we get older, you say, now you've been, knock on, you've been extremely successful in your business. It didn't happen overnight, you know. I think to myself, why does a person like Lou Barletta, okay, want to run to become the governor of a state and have all these challenges, you know, and believe me, they're going to hold you to that, what you're saying, you know, why?
Well, you know, Sam, I was, after I ran for Senate in 2018, I was out of office, and I had an opportunity to enjoy my grandchildren, and you know, I've served for so long, and now finally, you know, I had that time to spend with the family that I love, and the things that I missed with them, and having 4 daughters and 10 grandchildren, and then the pandemic happened. And I watched Governor Wolf literally destroy people's lives. And you can go to Walmart, but you couldn't go to a local business. Why? Because he said so? And then they stole a year's education away from our children when science didn't back it up. We still don't know the long-term effects of that year of learning loss to our children that we need to make up. And then he put COVID-positive seniors back in a nursing home when we knew our seniors were our most vulnerable people. Although his secretary of health takes her grandmother out of the nursing home. 50% of our deaths came from those nursing homes. I had enough. Enough is enough. I have 14 good reasons to run for governor of Pennsylvania, and that's my 4 daughters and 10 grandchildren. And I thought, Sam, if not me, then who? I have statewide name ID. I have the experience. I stood on a national stage. I have a proven record of standing up for people, and that's exactly what we need. Not only my grandchildren, but your grandchildren. We need somebody who's strong, has the courage, and has the record of actually doing it, of actually governing. It's not easy to govern. And you know, the proof is, you know, your report card is every election. Sam, as mayor of Hazleton, I won by a 2-to-1 margin in a city that was 2-to-1 Democrat. Then I won by a 4-to-1 margin, my second term. Then I won with 90% of the vote my third term. That's what leadership is when both Democrats and Republicans want to re-elect you again, and that's what I'm offering the people of Pennsylvania.
I say many times, my friends, please, this is a critical, critical time in our lives. Please check the records of especially in the gubernatorial race, the records that are important. Lou Barletta, I wish you, as I wish everyone, the very best. I congratulate all of you who are running for this office. It's certainly a challenge. Thanks for joining us.